Hello, my name
Hello.
is Deborah Maclaren, and I'm the MD of Love Reading for Kids. And I am delighted today to be chatting to Ros Harding, who is the Chair of Judges 2025 for the Carnegie Award. Ros, hello, thanks for joining
Hello.
me. So, you have had many successful years as less than many. I mean, that sounded really rude, didn't it? You've had some successful years as a librarian.
Yeah,
Um,
just a few.
just a few. You started working initially at a charity library, then a school librarian, and it culminated in you winning the prestigious SLA School Librarian of the Year award in 2019, didn't it?
And it did.
What do school libraries mean to you?
Oh gosh, everything. I didn't have a proper school library when I was in school. We had a room with books that occasionally us few real bookworms might go and sit in over lunchtime, but it was nothing really. Um, and then when I was doing my master's in library and information studies, I did the whole module on school libraries. Is this where you want to go down? But then I kind of fell into them because we moved to North Wales and it was the only job going. And I think within about 2 weeks, I knew that this is what I should have been doing because I think things have changed so much about what school libraries can offer. Um, and I just found that what they can do is you've got the whole thing about reading for pleasure and being able to give people access to those books that they might not have anywhere else. Even if you've got a public library, that relies on somebody taking you to them and getting you signed up as a child. And you do have that reliance on another adult. A school library is there for every single pupil in that school. And they are, the outreach is to them. They don't have to come to it. Often the school library goes to them and it does all the outreach and it does everything. So I just think they are the most incredible things. And I'm just talking about the reading for pleasure side of it. There was a whole other load of things that school libraries do as well in terms of information literacy, and which is incredibly important now. But I think as we're talking about the Carnegies, I'll just focus on that side of it. But yeah, they are equalizers. They give people opportunities that they might not get through everything else. And they work the best when they are staffed by an actual librarian who has experience and knowledge, understands the pupils, understands the books, understands education, and how all of these things fit together.
Absolutely. And they understand the children right, because we talk about there being the right book for the right child at the right
You have to
moment,
know
at
the
the right
children.
time.
Yeah, you can't just know the books, you have to know
No.
the children as well. Yes.
I love that. You said that. I was lucky enough to be in the audience last week when the shortlist, sorry, the long list.
No,
It
the
was a
shortlist was announced
shortlist
last week. Yeah. Yeah.
when the shortlist was announced, and I love that. They're equalisers. It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. It's
Yeah.
really powerful. Really
They don't
powerful.
ask anything of you, a library.
No, no, it's really incredible. They are much loved. We love our school librarians, and as you say, not every school is lucky enough to have them. And long may they continue. Um, so the Carnegies, most people watching this will probably know they are the longest running children's book awards, and they're very unique, aren't they? Because they are judged by school librarians.
Not necessarily school librarians, but librarians. So we do have some judges from public libraries, and in other kind of libraries as well, for all librarians.
All librarians. So you've been involved with them, haven't you, since 2021? Which is, oh
Yes.
my God, what a joy. Talk to us about them and how it became part of your journey.
Okay. Well, I've loved the Carnegies for as long as I was a school librarian. It was probably one of the first things I did was set up a book club to follow this, to shadow the Carnegies. But I always thought it was like this kind of mysterious group, the Carnegie judges. I didn't know anything about them. It was just like they were out there. Um, and then as I got more involved, going to conferences, joining like committees as my career went on, I realized they were just normal librarians who just got to do this for 2 years. And it was just, oh my gosh, I could do that. That could be something that I could do. Um, so I applied. I would admit it. I didn't get it the first time I applied. You do have to go through the application process, and I'm very lucky that I'm in a really active region of the youth library groups, which is fantastic in many ways, but also meant there was a lot of competition for the judging role. But the second time round I did. So although you say you've been involved since 2021, that was the year of the awards, but actually your involvement starts quite a bit earlier when you first get
Right.
appointed as a
Of
judge.
course.
They appoint you quite early so that you can start your pre-reading. So even before the nominations come out, you're reading and reading and reading to try and get ahead, because you only have otherwise 3 months really
Yeah.
to read all the nominations, which would be very, very difficult. So you're
Mm.
hoping that when that list comes out, you can tick them all off. Go, I've read some, it's okay. And keep your notes as you're going on. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was an absolute joy being a judge for 2 years then, 2021 and 2022. Obviously, 2021 in particular, very much the COVID years. So
It's
everything
been
was
tough.
virtual. We
Yeah.
didn't, as a judging panel, we didn't meet in person until the 2022 ceremony,
Ah.
because we didn't get an award ceremony or
Oh,
anything. But we had fantastic relationship as a judging panel on Zoom, on WhatsApp, keeping up with each other's lives, which was fantastic. Um, but it was just the most amazing experience, and the confidence that it builds up in you as
yeah.
well. So if there's any like librarians watching this thinking, oh, I couldn't do that, you could. And you will be terrified the first time you have to speak in that meeting. But it's okay, because by the 20th time you're speaking, it's good, and you realize that you have got things to contribute. So I think what it does for your confidence and your knowledge of children's books is just superb.
And I mean, I've been a judge and I've been in exactly that, not of the Carnegies, but of other book awards. And you're absolutely right, because it's quite daunting. Well, I know what I think, but
Yeah,
will it
yeah,
match what other people think? And
yeah.
of course, there is discussion and debate, and all of that is super healthy. But it's a lot of reading. So how many books did you have to read for this year's?
For this year's, where I've been chair, it was 119 books were
Yeah,
nominated across the two awards. And I would say that's a lot of books. That's
yeah,
on the lower end of
yeah,
what it can be for the Carnegies.
yeah,
So
yeah. And of course, once it gets to middle grade, it's a lot of pages.
it's a lot of pages. And I think a lot of people think the illustration award, oh, you can get through those quickly. You really, really can't get through those
No,
illustrated books quickly, because you have to look at them in such detail and really thinking
yes,
about the criteria.
yeah,
So, you read it, you have to read those a few times
yeah,
to get your head
absolutely.
around what they're saying. So it's a lot, but
But what a
yeah,
joy. I mean, isn't it
joy.
lovely? What
There
getting
are
to
some
talk
that are
about
not as
books?
joyful as others, but
Yes, of
but
course. They're not all
but
easy to
it
talk
is,
about.
and it makes you read things that you would never have thought you'd read and never thought
Yeah,
you'd enjoyed. And one of the other things that I think is so fantastic about the Carnegies is that any book can be nominated. It's not relying on publishers to put them forward. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter whether it's one of the big five or whether it's
yeah,
a tiny niche
yeah,
independent publisher. The books have got the same chance.
yeah.
And I think that is absolutely wonderful. And I definitely, through the nominations, read books that I hadn't heard of, and I'm so grateful to those librarians who, found those and nominated them so that we
Oh
got
my
to
goodness, this
cover
is
them.
so true. Because every book, no matter how small the publisher, deserves to have a light shone on it. And sometimes books do slip through the net, don't
Yeah,
they? It's hard to keep up to date with everything. So
yeah,
when you find that little gem that is nominated by as you say, a librarian, that might not have reached the heights of its potential,
absolutely. They
it's
might have had
just,
no publicity budget.
yeah,
I've had nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So 16 titles for 2025, shortlisted for the medals for writing and illustration for this year. It's an incredible shortlist. It's going to be a tough call, right?
Oh, it is. Yeah, we're very, very proud of these shortlists. And that sounds daft, doesn't it? We're not the ones who wrote them, but so proud that our discussions and the judges have been amazing in the
Yeah,
way that they have debated these and been so thoughtful about it. I
yeah.
think that's so obvious then with the lists. Um, and they just come up with some incredible things on there. And obviously, I can't tell you what my favourites are.
No. I must admit, I went when they were being announced, and you're going, yes, that made it, yes, that it's hard. We will all have our favourites, but
We
I think
will, but I can promise you that whatever the winner is, I will tell you that was my favorite.
but they are. It's an 16 absolutely incredible books. So we're here to talk about the shadowing. As I heard you on that panel at London Book Fair last week, I was thinking this is such a brilliant opportunity for schools. And I thought that we've not really at Love Reading for Kids ever really properly maybe shone a light on this as much as we could do. So talk to us about the Carnegie Shadowing Scheme, please, Ros, and how it works.
Okay. I mean, the great thing is, I think, about the shadowing scheme is it works in whatever way you want it to work. So all of the resources are there. Everything's set up to give you a framework, but every single librarian or teacher, whoever wants to run the group, can run it in whatever way they want. So as I said, on the Carnegie's website, you've got all the information about the books, little summaries of them, some age recommendations as well, if you've not read them yourself, just to give you a bit of guidance if you're setting up a group. But also incredible amount of resources in terms of activity ideas. And those are ranging from, how to just start a discussion to information about, really digging down into the book. So, this quotes from the book. What do you think of this? And what do you think of the ending? And really, really detailed resources in there. And I said lots like fun activity ideas as well. And that's for the writing books and the illustration books. So you can set that up with a small group, and you could have your group of maybe 6 to 12 students who really get into that, meet on a lunchtime and read the books together, or go off and read them and come back and discuss them. But equally, you could run it with a whole year group if you wanted, and actually have it as part of a scheme of work. You could work with your English department staff and have it actually built into lessons, because there is this huge amount of support there and detail there to help you to run it in that way. So yeah, I think that's the really important thing to remember, because I think some people are like, oh, I don't know how to do shadowing. Well,
Yeah.
try it. I think
Yes.
that's the thing I would say, and try it, and also be prepared to try it one way one year and do it a completely different way the next year. And that might just be because something worked and something didn't, or it
Yeah.
might be because just the kids are different that year.
Yes.
You might, because I think we all know that if you've worked in a school, no year group is the same. And something that works brilliantly one time might be a disaster the next year. So being prepared to adapt and change, using those resources, like I said, as scaffolding, as a framework, but not being scared to try something. So for example, I tended to do it with a year 9 group when I was in my last school. I just found that was the right year. Partly you knew that they'd be okay reading all the books. Didn't matter what was going to be shortlisted.
Yeah.
The age would be okay for the writing award. But also that's the age they're starting to drop off, sometimes starting to lose them. And I would invite them to join the shadowing group. And that made them feel special. It doesn't take much to make it feel special sometimes. And it would sort of, we just keep them in the library or bring a couple of them back if they'd already dropped off. But then I also did the illustration shortlist with even older ones, with the year 10 or 11. And that was an idea I got from another librarian as a kind of relaxing thing. So they'd come in, because it's getting into mocks and exam time and all of that. So they would come in, we'd read the story together, and they are mostly picture books. There is a YA one on there this year as well, but they are mostly picture books that get shortlisted. So we'd read the book, like story time, and then they would pick one of the art or craft activities to do along with that book. And they might spend, a couple of weeks doing it on one, but they would just come in, and I didn't have to do anything. I'm not arty at all, but I would just give them the things, and they would just get on with it and just have that half an hour, 45 minutes to just switch off from everything else.
That sounds amazing. I want to join, because it's that mindfulness, isn't it? And
It
just
is, yeah.
there's no right or wrong way here.
Exactly.
There are just opportunities for you to almost cherry pick what you like and don't like. And as you say, what works for your school, for your students.
And the same, with even with the writing award, they don't have to read every book.
No,
It's okay. No one's going to come up and check that they've read every book before they vote or anything like that. If you just want to do the shadowing with two or three of the books on the shortlist, there is still a huge amount of benefit to that.
brilliant. I
Definitely
love it.
suggest it.
I really love it. Have you seen any correlation, Ros, when you've done it yourself in schools, between taking part in the shadowing scheme and any maybe subsequent desire to read for pleasure independently once the scheme is finished?
I think so. It's always hard to really nail it down, isn't it? But I definitely think there have been some groups where I said you've had those kids that have definitely been on the periphery of dropping out of coming to the library, or where they've even managed to get somebody who I knew was reading on the sly, perhaps, but hadn't been it, and definitely saw those then interacting more with the library, and reading books perhaps by the same author, or talking to me more about what they were reading. I think
Mm.
being more open, they were definitely more open to continuing, which I think is great. Um, but also even like with friends. So I'm thinking, a few years ago, actually the first year I was a judge in 2021, um, somebody recommending Fountains of Silence to their friend. And that friend kind of, can I join the group after that?
Oh,
And then starting to read a little bit more. And I remember Fountains of Silence, it's like this, it's huge. And that being the book that grabbed her was just amazing.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it definitely can happen. And it can never be a bad thing.
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And of course, the the shadowers are then involved in the Shadowers Choice Award. How does that work?
So this was introduced a few years ago. I'm not going to say exactly when because I can never remember. A good few
I'll let
years
you
ago.
off.
It's always as a separate award to the main award that is judged by the librarians. Um, so they get a chance to actually just vote for their favourite book on each list. You can do that as an individual, or you can do it as a group. So again, different people do that in different ways. Some of them will get together and they will, do this is our group's vote. Others will say, each child can go off and vote for their favourite. And then that author illustrator still gets a medal as well, which I think is fantastic, and they get money to donate to a library, and it's still given that got that kudos, that prestige, I think, still with it, which I think is fantastic. And it is fascinating to see when the children agree or disagree with the judges. And I know the first year that it actually was introduced, it was exactly the same. The Shadowers'
Yeah,
choice for both medals went to the same as the main winners, which I thought was really funny because for years people have been saying, "Oh, would the children always disagree?" And then the very
yeah.
first year it came in, they completely agreed.
I love that.
um,
And actually hearing Tia Fisher, so Tia
yeah,
won the Shadowers Choice Medal last year for her first novel, Crossing the Line. And actually hearing her chat, she's like, but I'm not just saying it because I won the Shadowers Choice, but that's the one I want to win because actually it is voted for by the children, by the students, by the people who she wrote the book for.
absolutely. To know that they are reading and loving your book, I think,
Yeah,
yeah, it must be an incredible feeling.
yeah. No, it's a really wonderful thing. So how do how do schools get involved, Ros? What if we've got heads of literacy, school librarians, teachers watching this, thinking, sign me up. I'd love to I'd love to take part in the Carnegie Shadowing Scheme for this year. What do they do? What can
So
they
all
do?
they need to go to is go onto the Carnegies website, which is just carnegies.co.uk. And there is a section on there to register as a shadowing group. And then that gives you access to the shadowing website where you can also upload artwork and reviews and, have that kind of interaction with things. And you also get access to printable posters and bookmarks. I would say that if you want to get more organized for next year, if you sign up far enough in advance, you get that sent out to you in print format, but a bit late for that this year.
Yeah,
But everything's there for you to download and you get access to all of those resources. So that's literally all you need to do is just like that quick sign up. I mean, you could do it without doing that, but I think that's the best way to do it is to just, actually get hold of everything and being able to add the reviews and stuff. That's great. And then you can read other people's as well. And that's always great. It's great
Well,
fun.
I just think all of the work that's gone into creating these incredible resources, it seems silly not to utilize them, doesn't it? Really,
Absolutely.
we know that these are going to be quality books. To be shortlisted for the Carnegie is a huge deal.
To get nominated for the Carnegie is
Exactly,
a huge deal. To get
exactly.
shortlisted is
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, it really is. So it's a brilliant roster of books. So it's a great opportunity. So Ros, thank you so much for taking the time. It's really brilliant to chat to you, and thanks for all you do for Reading for Pleasure and for the Carnegies. It's a wonderful thing. We love the Carnegies at Love Reading for Kids. So thank you for joining us today and for chatting to us.
You're very welcome.